I kind of wanted to talk about like, those days where it is really stressful, and then having to go home after those work days. And how do you shake off the day before you get in? How do you not take work home with you? I think one of the things that I'm like, man, I wish I would have understood this earlier, is not letting my day weigh me down at home.
Yeah, well, I mean, first off, I work from home, so very, very seldomly, am I not here. And not only that, I work with my wife.
Right.
So that is something we're still navigating through. We've come a really, really long way for de-stressors. My biggest one is basketball.
What's up, my friends? Welcome to the Proud Papi Podcast. My name is Benny, and on today's episode, we're talking about tips to help you as a dad on when you're feeling stressed. Check it out. Let me tell you why I'm afraid to take Dalia to the movies. The boys would be fine. I'm not worried about the boys. It's Dalia. The reason why it's Dalia is because when Mateo was about Dalia's age, so I would have put Abel about 2.5 or something, maybe like closer to 3. We went to go watch one of the Avenger movies. I don't remember which one.
Took a 3-year-old to an Avenger movie?
Well, they loved the Avenger. Actually, Abel was probably 4, and Mateo was like 2.5. Okay,
right. So he loved the Avengers.
They did. They both did. They both did. So I took him, and dude, we couldn't sit in the movie for more than 10 minutes because they were talking. They were like walking back and forth. And mind you, this is when the movie first came out, so like it was packed. I got so embarrassed, and Ruthie got so frustrated that we're like, we need to leave. And I was so upset because I'm like, I paid this money to see this movie that just came out. We're 10 minutes in, and now we got to go because our kids can't sit down, And so from there on, I'm like, I am never taking a child that's younger than 2.5 to a movie because I have trauma.
You should probably shouldn't take a 2-year-old.
Well, I love going to the movie. I love going to the movies.
I know you do. I know.
Yeah.
That was you and Ruthie's thing. You guys were like consistent on hitting movies.
Yeah, we just like to go spend time in the movie.
Did you ever get Movie Pass like during the whole Movie Pass thing?
I never got Movie Pass.
You missed the hype.
I did. We were doing AMC for a little bit to where we got like rewards and points and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But we never did Movie Pass.
Yeah, that blew up spectacularly. But
yeah.
If you're watching this in the future, you don't know what Movie Pass is.
Yes.
Because this is on the internet forever. So I think we watched this 25 years ago. Anyways. 25 years ahead. Anyways. The second thing is, I don't know about you, but my patience for kids in public areas has grown exponentially.
Yeah.
Like, I remember, like being in my 20s, going to like a Safeway and hearing these crying kids. I'm like, gosh, somebody please. Like,
yeah.
And now, like, I 100% empathize with those situations. I've been very blessed. James is honestly, he's a really great kid. Like, very, very rare, seldomly does he ever have any type of like, emotional thing.
Yeah.
But I'm almost at the standpoint, like, can I help? Like in this situation, like I'll see kind of a grumpy goose, kid kind of thing. And I'll try to make them smile or that kind of thing. Because like I'm on team parents now.
Yeah.
Like, especially if it's a single parent, if it's not both, if it's just like a mom or just a dad, I am 100% on your team to make sure. And like, I tell them like, don't be embarrassed. I don't care what everybody else, I try to carry that mentality like, hey, this is an opportunity for me and my child to kind of work through this, and maybe it's just because that's also me too. Like I have I don't care very much about what people think or what they.
Yes, you don't.
So like, so I don't mind having that moment like in a store and really trying to make that a teachable moment. But like, I think in those situations, even if I would have brought the movie and would have done that, I just would have been, I'll try enjoying the movie as long as I can, but I probably wouldn't feel as embarrassed. Yeah,
well, this was, 7-8 years ago, so my tolerance was still building up.
Yeah.
And I do care what people think. So
no, you do.
So I mean, I was like, okay, we gotta, and then the type. It wasn't a kid, like necessarily a kid's movie, right? Like it wasn't a toddler movie. It was an Avengers movie. So there wasn't a whole lot of kids running around in there. So I'm like, oh dang, okay, yeah, we got to go. So I'm not taking kids to the movies. I'm not doing that.
I mean, again.
Well, and then now it's like a movie will come out and in 2 weeks you can go rent it on like one of the streaming platforms.
Right.
You know, so it's like, oh, I'd rather do that. And I only paid $20, $25 to see the movie once, which, you know, you're like, oh, you paid $25 to get the movie once for a day. But it's like, yeah, but if I go to the movies, it's like $80, $100 for all of us. So it's a win. I get to be home, don't have to worry about my kids running around and watch the movie for $20. Dude, it's a win. It's a steal.
Game changer.
Yeah.
That's what big corporate wants you to think.
That's true.
Oh, yeah.
They're suckering me in somehow. Yeah. How, I don't know, but they are. I'll find about the.
It's bottled water all over again.
Yeah. I'll find about the fine print later somehow.
Yeah.
Dad tip.
Okay.
All right. This week we're going back to Dads Who Try, right? Just like last week.
Okay.
Love them. Great account to follow. I'm going to give you guys some more accounts to follow too, but this is from Dads Who Try. If you have a dad tip, send it in. You can follow us on Instagram, Proud Papi Pod. Send me a DM and just send your dad tip. Like, hey, this is my dad tip, something I learned. It could be something silly. It can be something serious. It could be one hack that you found in parenting, and send it in so we can all learn together. So this is from Dads Who Try. Let's see if I get this to work here. Oh, here we go. Oh, maybe I should have the sound on. There it is.
Thing I wish I would have learned earlier in my parenting, you reproduce who you are, not what you say. And when I grew up, people said it like this: do as I say, not as I do. And it was just an excuse for parents to do whatever they want and to still have their kids be locked into what they say. But I'm convinced we ought to live a life that our kids want to live. So I encourage you today, don't just say the things that you want them to do, show them the life you want them to live.
It's so much easier to just say, though, isn't it? And not do the things.
Most definitely.
I mean, it's right on, right? Like, it's not that saying, right? Do as I say, not as I do, is kind of already teaching kind of poorly there, right? It's like, oh, you know, you don't have to do these things. You just got to say that you do them, or say that they need to do them, and that's fine.
Right.
But this kind of brings me back to that quote that we read last week about how at those odd moments is where kids really learn, and they start becoming who they're going to be, is at those odd moments of teaching where the parent isn't really, it's not intentional about teaching, you know, it's just kind of an organic, like, odd moment, I think is the way the quote said it. But yeah, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that works kind of the same way with integrity, right? Like, integrity only works in those moments where you feel like no one's watching.
Yeah.
Right? When you see that $20 out on the streets, do you just take it and put it in your pocket?
Right.
Do you see that someone might have dropped it, or that kind of situation? And those are always kind of the moments that I feel like are more telling to you. Yeah, you don't reap the immediate benefits of things, you know, in order to be, you know, a man of integrity or a woman of integrity or whatever it may be. But you like do learn, like, hey, I was able to do that.
Yeah.
I did the right thing. Right. Yeah. And so you're right. It sets like a terrible precedence of like, oh, well, then just believe what people are telling you.
Yeah.
Right. Like, oh, like, you know, how many friendships or relationships were broken because they told you something and they were doing something else.
Right. For sure.
Right. So it really, but you're right. It is easier to say that.
I mean, yeah, it's way easier. I think it's also a great reminder of, yes, they are always watching, you know? I know for me, like, it's like, oh, but I need to tell them, because then I know that they're listening to me. But even when I tell them, it doesn't mean that they're going to do what I'm telling them to do. But I think it's a great reminder to know, like, yes, even when you don't think they're watching, or you don't know if they're watching, they are watching, you know?
Yeah.
And they're just going to repeat what you're doing. Like the way that you speak to others and treat others, the way that you clean up or don't clean up, the way you, you know, they're going to learn that stuff, and they're going to do those things because they're going to do what they see, So, I think it's a great dad tip of just like, hey, like, let's not just be fathers who say something. Let's be fathers who are doing something, do what we want to see.
One of the cool things we did, James has this little recycle company and stuff like that. And so, some of his money goes towards toys and some of it we tithe to God.
Yeah.
But then some of it we set aside for people in need. And he is very aware of his surrounding.
Yeah.
And always tells us in the car, like, oh, hey, dad, or hey, mom, a homeless person, let's help them, kind of thing. And we started putting together a couple of like blessing bags, especially now in the winter time. And here in Santa Rosa, it's been getting chilly and really cold and rainy. Right. And so, with some socks and some bars and just kind of some essentials and stuff. And so, today, I do hope he would be a little bit more tactful in it. But we saw somebody out of the library today. It's like, hey, Dad, look, a homeless person. I was like, okay, yes, yeah. But his heart was, let's go to the car because we have something for him. And it's one of those moments that like he's almost calling me like I need to have this stuff prepared, because he's gonna see it and he's gonna want to be motivated and activated, and that's something that I want to activate in him. Right. So that means that I need to be prepared. Even if, that inconveniences me, I need to be prepared because I know he's always looking for those opportunities. And like as a father, if I want to raise him that way, I need to be able to give him those opportunities to give in those moments. Yeah. So
that's a great idea. Those, what do you guys call them?
Blessing bags.
Blessing bags.
Yeah.
And you put what, again, socks?
It depends, what's going on, but like socks, toothpaste, toothbrush, some granola bars or some energy bars, that kind of thing. Just kind of like a normal essentials that are kind of needed, soap. Yeah. And the great thing is you can find a lot of that stuff at kind of the Dollar Tree if you're looking at kind of bulk purchase kind of thing. Yeah. Or Costco if you want to really bulk purchase.
Nice stuff.
And nice stuff. Yeah. And for him, it's always been like a really nice moment because he gets excited. Yeah. He gets excited to be able to give back to, sorry, that was my phone.
Oh, I was like, what the heck is that? Get down.
He's really excited to like give back. And so that's something that we want to continue to spur in his heart. So,
yeah. Cause I know like Abel, has that same awareness too, where he's like, oh, mom, dad, look, like, but we haven't been as intentional as far as like having a fund or something that we can hand off. Cause every time we come across a homeless person, he's like, oh, mom and dad, look, a homeless person. Can you give them money? And it's like, I don't carry cash. Yeah. Like I don't think he takes Apple Pay, son. Like, I'm sorry.
Well, so most of them do now.
So maybe. Yeah, that's true.
They've got phones around, but he usually sees it, especially after grocery shopping. Dad, let's get him something, like, all right, let me look through, like, let's sacrifice a couple of oranges, a couple of bananas or whatever we might have kind of thing. And I know like the beginning, again, this is part of like, for me, like a bit of my selfishness, like, oh, like I got to go back to the store and go get this. Otherwise it's not going to be on the list. But then just like slowly realize like, no, like, hey, I'm blessed to have this stuff in this bag, like I think I said last episode, but like, I'm only a couple of decisions between being in this car and being out on that street. Right. And so, the only way to continue down that path is to show grace and show mercy, right? So, yeah, it's going to inconvenience me. I may have to run back to the store, but like that's another moment where he's like, hey, Dad, look, somebody in need. I just need to be able to show out of my own, my own stuff, if you will, I'm giving. Yeah. Because I think that's more a reflection of like, there's one thing to like buy some stuff, which the concept of money, he still doesn't quite understand. Like money is just kind of like a thing we have. Yeah. Not necessarily like we earn or anything like that. Right. So as he gets older, he'll learn that more. But like, I think it's a more powerful thing to say like, this was stuff that's supposed to be ours that we're now giving away because there's somebody else that's in need. So
yeah, I think that's really cool. That's a good dad tip too. So
I should just be messaging the PPP. So
Yeah, you should.
The Proud Papi Podcast.
Proud Papi Podcast. At Proud Papi Pod. Not podcasts, but.
Oh, pod. Got it.
Yeah. Send in your dad tip and we'll read it up here on the show.
Yeah.
Speaking about dad tips, I follow a few great like dad content creators. Like And they all kind of serve different purposes. So I just kind of wanted to share some of them. So we have Dads Who Try, and we've played a couple of their dad tips videos that they put out. Really good stuff. A really funny one that I follow just for laughs is Dumb Dads. They do the dad press conferences.
Oh yeah, I've seen those.
Oh my gosh, those things are hilarious, dude. Like, and they have their own podcast, and I don't know if they're like or were professional comedians, but the guys are like natural comedians, and they laugh and talk about fatherhood. So that's a really good account to follow if you want some laughs. A couple of dad podcasts I follow is first is Dad Edge podcast. Really great. What I love about it is some of the episodes kind of turn into this like mastermind group where you have callers or people calling into the host and some of his guests and just asking questions or bringing up real life situations. And the guys just kind of like help think through and process. There's like a lot of great like topics and conversations to kind of glean from on those. I'm a huge fan of like masterminds because when you have multiple minds in a room, like
that are masters,
that are just masters, you just feel like you're becoming a mastermind.
Yeah.
No. But you learn a lot because you have minds that think differently and have different situations. So Dad Edge is a great podcast. And then one that I kind of tune in from every now and then is Dad Tired podcast from this guy who used to be a pastor. So he really tackles fatherhood from like a spiritual aspect, kind of being the priest of your home, pastoring your kids, like leading your kids, being a father, obviously, but very scripture based. So I really enjoy following Dad Tired as well. So those are some of the ones I have. There's tons of great like dad content creators out there. There's one that's I think it's called Dad Advice from this older guy and all he's doing is making content, teaching you how to do stuff.
I love those videos.
Yeah, so like, good. And they're usually like things that we're not good at, like around the house, right? Like teaching you how to tighten the sink faucet, and teaching you how to change light bulbs, stuff like that. And it's from this older guy who's like, it's like it could be your dad, like he's here teaching you these things. So I think it's good to like, I'm a huge believer in filling up my feed with things that I want to get better at and not trying to compare myself to others, so I'll like do a lot of like adding and trimming to my accounts like every month or so, cutting out people that I'm like, I think I'm not really getting anything out of this. And then adding stuff that I'm like, I want to learn more of this or know more of that, So I think it's always good to kind of do that with your feed. You're not really active though, are you, on social media?
I just said memes. That's it. I'm like, if you look at all my posts, they're very few and far between.
That's true.
Very, very few and far between. Actually, there was one where Jenna was actually looking through my posts and she's like, so you post like our wedding anniversary and like birthdays and stuff. And then there's the 10th anniversary for Pokemon that's on there. I was like, that was really important to me. Okay, growing up, it was very, very important. I think it was 25 years or something. I don't know, something crazy, but no. All I really do is just scope out for the hottest memes, and I send them to everybody. I send them to everybody. So if you're looking to, you just message me. I'll send you. But I do it with care. I personalize. I know who I'm sending to that kind of thing, and so
it's so true because you batch them too. So you send like 3 or 4 at a time, and I'm like, bro, I can't look at all these out now. So I honestly miss some of them, but the ones I do watch are pretty funny. So
thank you, I appreciate that.
Yeah,
that's all I really, as a meme lord, that's all I really care about.
So when we're not looking at memes and laughing at things, sometimes things can get kind of stressful at home. Your type of work, you're out in the field all day long, and having to work in the elements, right? You get called out to a site or whatever, and you're just having to work around whatever they got to work with. I work at a warehouse with numerous people that I'm on the phone with and emailing back and forth. So it can get pretty frustrating, but I kind of wanted to talk about those days where it is really stressful, and then having to go home after those work days And how do you shake off the day before you get in? How do you not take work home with you? How do you, because I think one of the things that I'm like, man, I wish I would have understood this earlier, is not letting my day weigh me down at home, to where I'm like unmotivated to play with my kids, or just like completely zoning out on my phone, just scrolling, because honestly, what kind of puts me in that mood is just when I have really hard days where I have a lot of fires I'm putting out, maybe a couple of hard conversations, maybe, just being put in a position I didn't want to be put in at work. Like when it comes to like having to put somebody in line or having an argument, whatever. So, when it comes to those stressful days, is there like anything that you kind of go to, or anything that comes to mind that kind of helps you as you get home?
Yeah, well, I mean, first off, I work from home, so very, very seldomly, am I not here. And not only that, I work with my wife.
Right.
So that is something we're still navigating through. We've come a really, really long way. And a big portion of that is like very clear on communication, expectation, and at the same time too, like being very purposeful of like, okay, we're done working, kind of thing. So we implemented Sabbath 2.5, almost 3 years ago now, which has been great to kind of unplug, not answer any emails or anything like that, really connect on family time, which has been really important to us. And we're trying to be better about making our trips out to weddings or, multi-day affairs where we're going to be staying somewhere further and trying to bring James into that. So this last year we had a wedding up in Elk County, which is about an hour and a half north of Eureka. So quite a bit of travel up there. We got to take James, and we did one wedding day, and then the full next day we got to just spend doing hikes and stuff.
That's cool. Super
cool. Being very purposeful with that. But for de-stressors, my biggest one is basketball.
Okay.
I play basketball. I try to play basketball once a week. There's a group of guys I play with on and off now for 4, maybe 5 years. And so it for me, like, if I had a hard week, that's like almost a non-negotiable. I just got to get out. I need to go play. It's great for cardio, which I could always use more of.
Yeah.
But B, too, like, after a couple of years, you get to know a lot of these guys. It's a great way to check in. It's a great way to bring people in too.
Yeah.
And so basketball, and I would say basketball in most all forms, watching or playing. I prefer to play, but I love watching. Big Warriors fan.
Yeah. Try
and follow on most every game this season. A little harder, but that's like a big de-stressor for me. I'd probably say the biggest for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, well, let me ask you this before I share, but like, so for you, it's interesting because you don't go out much because you work from home, and then you work with your wife as well. So, right. There's a difference of like, it's a different type of stress where you're at home, you're working, and I think that transitions might even be a little trickier because you're not leaving somewhere to go home. You're already home. So like that switch of like, okay, work is done. Like, this is no longer my office. This is my home where I get to rest after spending all day working. Like, what's that like? Like, I mean, is that hard for you? Is that not hard for you?
So my computer, I can literally roll out of bed and into chair of my computer.
Okay.
It is in my bedroom. It's where I do a bulk of my editing, my emails.
Yeah.
Other projects that are kind of going on. So a lot of that gets spent in my room. And both Jana and I have been like really respectful of each other. Like when we're editing, to give that time for that person to kind of do that unabridged, basically, like without any distractions. And it gives us, the nice thing is that it gives us opportunities then to like really spend one-on-one time with James.
Yeah.
So like when I'm working in editing, she can be very purposeful and say, okay, I'm not going to work. I'm going to be with James.
Yeah.
Other way around too. So, but it does make it very difficult. I'm not going to lie to you and say I haven't answered an email at 11:30 p.m. Like right there, or finishing up a project, going into 10:30, 11 o'clock. And it's like, okay, well, I'm basically go to bed and that's it.
Yeah.
So that I think has been difficult to navigate. I know like my father-in-law, his dad, he used to work downtown Santa Rosa, and he said that he would go to like one of like 3 different cafes and have a cup of coffee before he'd come back home. So like a decompress period.
Yeah.
So get off of work, go get his cup of coffee, then head home.
Yeah.
And he said that was really big rhythm for him to like really get himself right.
Yeah.
So hopefully not carry as much what was happening at work back at home. So
yeah, so I didn't do much like to change up my rhythm when I left work to go home. Like I'd like leave work, get in the car, go home, and then walk right into home, right? And it wasn't until I was in a dad group, and one of the dads there was like, "Oh, I'll like sit in my car, I'll turn the music off, I'll take my AirPods out, and just sit in the car for like a good 5 to 10 minutes and just in silence, and then I'll." When I'm done, then I'll go inside the house. And I'm like, that's a really good idea. I'm going to try that. Because like I have an AirPod in all day long. Answer phone calls, listen to music while I'm working. So like I have an AirPod in. So when I started taking them off before going in, I'm like, oh shoot. Like it was literally a switch of like,
disconnect.
Okay. Don't have to worry about anyone calling me right now. I don't need to listen to music. I'm going home, right? So there's some days I still walk in with my AirPods, but one of the things I think I wish I would add in is going to the gym before going home. But the kicker with that is that like, well, then that's just an hour more that the kids don't get to see me before they go to bed.
Right.
Because I don't get home till 5, so that'd put me home 6:30. And they go to bed at 8, 7:30 on some nights, like that's like nothing, And my wife works from home, so I don't want her to have to feel like she's got to be home all day with the kids all day, So I go to the gym in the morning. I feel like that is a huge decompressor for me, is being able to like wake up, just go into weights and work out, and then go home with like a kind of like a like I've already exhausted some of my energy. Yeah. So I'm not coming in like this. I'm coming in more like this, especially in the morning, because the morning is a battle with the kids, especially Mateo, when it comes to going to school, right? Hey kids, time to get ready for school. And Mateo would just be like, I don't want to go to school. And then he'll start, start making crying noises. I'm like, oh my gosh, dude, come on, bro. Like, let's not do this today. Come on, So, but when I go to the gym and I have those mornings, I'm more like likely to just like, oh, come on, buddy. Like, and I'll start like playing with him, wrestling with him, and he starts laughing. I'm like, come on, we can do this, not a big deal. So,
have you tried working out at night?
I've tried working out after work. Yeah,
I can't do it, man.
I like it because, again, it's a really good way for me to like, even on good days, really a good way for me to put that work day into like actually physically exerting myself. And then when I get home, I feel like I'm good. The other cool thing is like I don't have to worry about getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning the next day to go to the gym, because I already went to the gym. Yeah. So I'm good. But
we're just in different stages of life right now. Because I've tried like the evening thing, and it's, for me, I'm a big procrastinator. So like if I don't do it in the morning, chances are me doing it at night are pretty low. Yeah. For me. But again, I also have more flexibility too. I just started as of filming. This is my second week. 4 days, 4 days a week is what I'm trying to do. And so like going and dropping off James at school and then going to the gym and then coming home and working.
Yeah.
Has been like my schedule. 'Cause I get up early enough with him that I don't need to get up any earlier to go to the gym. So.
But I mean, as their sleep schedules change, that changes, you know? I mean,
I hope so.
For me, I mean, that's, you know, when we were in San Diego, I was going to the gym right after work. So I started earlier. My work day was from 6 to 2:30. So I get off, go to the gym, and then go pick up Abel and Mateo from daycare. And that was my routine, you know? And then, you know, my work day wasn't 6 o'clock in the morning anymore. It was now 8 o'clock. And then the kids go to school. So it's like, oh, well, I guess I got to get up early. For me, I don't know if I ever, honestly, I think I could almost work out any time if I needed to. I think for me, it's just kind of, I'm going to do this and I'm going to get into the habit of doing this, you know?
Yeah, it's hard for me to get into a habit for sure.
Yeah, because like I was getting up at 4:30 in the morning for a little while to go to the gym. And it was hard, sure, but I was like, I'm doing it because I want to work out. I need to. And it's a good way for me to decompress from the stress, you know? So, but I think it's like an important conversation because, you know, like I said, I mean, I think when dads are stressed, they respond at home in two different ways. They either, you know, are very angry and very aggressive, bitter, or they're very like just mindless robot.
Shut down.
You know?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I think when we talk about being a father, being a good dad, I mean, we want to be intentional. We want to be alert. We want to be in the moment. And to do that requires us to manage stress. And you know what? Some days we're not going to be able to really manage, like we're not going to be able to really like get rid of stress. You know, It's going to be there. It's just about managing it. Like, what are you doing to manage it? You know? So I think we gave like a couple good, like practical things, like going to the gym, maybe taking a moment of silence. Sounds funny. A moment of silence before going, you know, taking a moment to yourself like,
recollect your thoughts.
Or grabbing a coffee after work and just sitting and just, you know, just again, taking that moment before going home, you know, or if your wife doesn't like you doing that and is like, why is it taking you 30 minutes to get home when it should only take you 10? Then maybe getting up early, going to the gym, you know, or whatever. Like,
I would think though, you know, I think if you were to explain to your wife the reasoning behind it, I think that might be more of an open conversation.
But I'll be honest. If I told Ruthie, hey, I'm going to go to Starbucks and enjoy a cup of coffee.
Well, I didn't say go to Starbucks.
But still, I mean, whatever. Go to Land and Water. Go to, she's going to be like, oh, so when can I go and get a Starbucks and enjoy my cup of coffee? You know?
See, then that's where you flip it and you say, you deserve that, honey. When would you like to go?
That's good. That's actually really good.
Okay.
That's actually really good.
It's all equaled out.
But what I'm saying is like, you know, rhythms of family rhythms are different for everybody. Right. So for some people that coffee thing would work. For some it won't.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Maybe you just take 5-10 minutes in your car. Although it's funny because my friend was saying that like he was doing that. And then after a while they have a Ring camera out on the front of their house.
Oh no.
And that his wife would be like, so why are you sitting in your car for like 10 minutes and not coming, you know? So he had to explain. And so he's like, so I had to find something else that wasn't so weird, but
he parked on the street and waited there for 5 minutes.
Around the corner, like just, but I think it's good for us to think about these things. Yeah. I think if you have a very stressful job and you're finding yourself taking it into home, then you should definitely stop doing whatever it is you're doing and do something else and change it. Yeah. You know, like change that rhythm. I think it's important, you know, and especially like this is my rhythm right now, but I know in 5 years it's probably going to look different. You know, in 5 years, my goodness, Abel's going to be turning 15.
So he's not going to get up till 9.
He's not going to get up till 9, you know, and yeah. So, I mean, it's going to change, you know, so I think it's all about adjusting as you go. So any other tips or practical?
Yeah. I mean, I think acknowledging that you're stressed is a big thing because far too often I'm like, oh, I'm fine. I'm okay.
Oh, definitely.
Right. So like, if you can only be real with anybody, be real with yourself. Understand like, okay, today was a hard day.
Yeah.
And so, what am I going to do in order to change that around?
Yeah.
So I would say that's probably the first step is like acknowledging that, I'm carrying some extra stress. I think, clear communication with your wife, I think has been really important for me. Like, and it's hard. I'm not much of like a talker or an emotional, feely kind of guy, but there are moments where it's like, hey, you know what? Like this, this is what's bothering me. This is what's been stressing out. And she's been great. She just comes alongside. We ask me, what can I be praying about? How can I help? And so I think that helps, so that you don't feel like it's just all on you. You and your wife are to be a team together, right?
Yeah.
And also listening to her too, how you can help lighten the load for her as well.
Yes.
And then I think, the common thread between us is find something that works for you.
Yeah.
Right. Maybe it's that moment of silence. Drawing. Are you, I know people that are not very like artistic, like aren't very creative, but they love drawing. Like whether it's lines or just designs, and that just helps them decompress. So it's going to look very different for a lot of different people. And so, obviously circle around things that you like to do, but I think at the same time too, try something new.
Yeah.
If you're finding something that's like, it just doesn't hit the same way it used to, try something new, maybe something different you never even thought of, and you might enjoy that.
And I think the idea is to give your mind rest, right? Like, I know we say go in the gym, but you're not really using your mind too much. It's more your body. Because, maybe for some people I was thinking, oh, maybe like you can read. But for me, I'm like, I feel like all I'm using when I read is my mind. And it's not what I want to do to decompress. But maybe for some people that works.
Yeah.
But I think the whole thing is that your mind needs to take a second to rest, because sometimes what you're about to walk into at home is not going to be pretty. It's not going to be nice. You could have a stressful day, but that doesn't mean that your wife is going to have a great day immediately, so you could walk in and it's like the house is a mess and your wife just looks like, I need to go have a cup of coffee by myself right now. And so you need to be ready for that. Right. That if that's the case, that you're like, hey, I took my moment. My mind is, I had a stressful day, but I took a moment to like give my mind rest, and I'm ready to do this, to step in to help you now, Right. So I think that's the big thing is just do something that's going to give your mind rest so that you can go in and do the job that you're supposed to do, and that's be a dad. So thank you guys for joining us this week. I hope that you guys were able to get some kind of tip on help to de-stress. So my question for you this week is, what is your favorite way to de-stress? Let us know right now in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. If this is your first time, make sure you subscribe to the podcast. We drop weekly episodes for you to help you be that proud papi. Until next time, peace out.